Hello and welcome to the abridged version of the webinar, Introducing AI to the Classroom. If you joined me live, I had some technical difficulties, so this is a little redo. I'm going to make this short and sweet and try to get you all the information you need in a little succinct package. My name is Emma. I am an EdTech consultant, the author of The Hybrid Teacher, and I am a classroom teacher. I teach 7th grade language arts and 10th grade world literature, so all of my experience is coming directly from the classroom. You've probably found me through my website, edtechemma.com, or on social media at edtechemma or Emma B. Pass. And I'm really excited to do this webinar tonight because I'm typically consulting and training for districts and schools, but tonight this is all through my own consulting company, Empowered EDU, and I'm sharing with you all the resources that I just create as an independent teacher and consultant. First little caveat before we jump in is that you don't need to be an expert in AI to begin learning about it, using it, or using it with your students. It's a really exciting time to be involved in the conversation about AI because it's all happening live right now. We're currently talking about policy and we're talking about how to use it with our students. So if you dive in, you can be a part of that conversation. All of what I'll talk to you about tonight is just from reading and researching and doing trainings online, as well as my direct experience using it in the classroom. And then to get ready for some resources in the section below this video, there'll be resources, and then also I'll send them out in the email if you sign up for emails. So everything I talk about tonight, you should have access to. A lot of them are free. Some of them are on my website. At least one of them I haven't posted anywhere yet, so it's just kind of exclusive. And then some of them are for sale on my website and Teachers Pay Teachers. As I said, I'm a consultant and trying to do more and more work for myself and my own consulting company. So if you like what you're getting, hopefully you will support that work. All of the resources, again, are linked in this slide deck as well. So if you open up the slides, you'll have all of the resources here. All right. So starting off with what is AI. If you're going to be introducing AI to your students, you want, one, to know yourself what AI is, and then you also want your students to have a basic understanding of AI. So the first thing I would like to do with my students is grab a definition through demonstration of ChatGPT. So we're going to go ahead and go on to ChatGPT's website. I'm going to log in. And I'm just going to very simply ask it, what is AI? And try to get a working definition going with my students. Logging in. Here we go. So I'm going to ask it, what is AI? And if your students have never seen AI before, this will be like a really big wow moment, right? The first time you see a lot of content just generated in front of them. But as you can see, this is a pretty long description and definition. It's a pretty boring lesson if you just sit and read it. So I also like to demonstrate the iterative process of conversing with your AI and how to refine your requests to get the information you're looking for. So I might say, can you summarize in one paragraph for the group of teachers attending my webinar? And then now we have this definition. AI is a field of computer science involving creating machines and software capable of performing tasks typically requiring human intelligence. It comes in two main forms: narrow AI, which specializes in specific tasks like speech recognition or image classification, and general AI, which hypothetically possesses human intelligence across various domains. All right, so already we're getting complex. I might say, can you simplify a little more? Okay, now it's simplified a lot. AI is teaching computers to do smart things. There are two types. narrow AI, which does one job well, and general AI, which can learn to do many things like humans. AI uses tech like machine learning and helps us in areas like healthcare and finance. We're working on making AI as smart as humans, which is a big goal for the future. So again, refining it with the prompts that make sense to you. You might say, can you address 7th graders? Can you address 10th graders? Can you relate it to things that you might be interested in, until you get a definition that you like and that makes sense to you and your students. Once you have that working definition, I like to use an activity that I actually learned from a company called EduAI, and it is a Pictionary-based activity to get your students thinking about how an AI is trained and the type of things it can do. So you start with a regular Pictionary game, give your students prompts on note cards of things like pillows and bees and ladders, and then give them paper and pencil or a whiteboard and marker, and set a timer and have them go around and draw as fast as they can and have the students guess what they're drawing. And then have a conversation. Okay, how did you guess what they were drawing? What type of information did you need to know? Which clues were most helpful for you in those prompts? Then send your students to Quick Draw. Quick Draw is a Google experiment, and it uses AI to play a game of Pictionary. So you could either have students do this on their own, or if like it might be a site that's blocked for students, you could do it as a demonstration in front of the whole class, and either demonstrate yourself, or you can have students volunteer to come up and draw. But it's going to ask you to do something like draw a paperclip. And you're going to start drawing. At the bottom, you'll see the computer's guess, the AI's guess. It says,
I see straight line.
It's paper cup. And then coffee cup.
Oh, I know. It's paper clip. I see square. Or cup. Or mug. Oh, I know. It's coffee cup.
There we go. And so on and so forth. It'll go on for 6 different prompts, and the computer will guess. Then you can launch into this conversation of, okay, how is AI trained? AI is trained through different people using this game. So is it just a repetition process? Is it about seeing lots of different types of images? What clues did you give the AI that got it to guess the certain picture? Which ones were faster than others? And you can start speculating about what AI is and how it's able to do these things. This is all a part of a free lesson that I have available on my site. It's just called Introducing Artificial Intelligence to the Classroom. There's a slide deck, and then a full lesson plan written, including like some videos and some other information to kind of structure this conversation with your students. Once you understand what AI is, I really urge you to then consider teaching digital citizenship to your students. It's a powerful tool. It's an amazing tool, but how can we use it safely and responsibly? One of the first things teachers ask me when they're talking about digital citizenship is, how can we ensure that students aren't using AI to plagiarize? And I will answer that, but I want to get really into the semantics. I'm a language arts teacher, about the word plagiarism, right? Plagiarism is taking credit for somebody else's work. Companies like OpenAI are very clear about their position on plagiarism. They say that if you're using this AI to create content for your business or for your school, you own the copyright over that work unless there's agreement explicitly stating otherwise between you and whoever's created the program. So in most cases, using AI is not plagiarizing. It's using a tool to create your own work that you have the copyright to. However, do I believe that using AI when you haven't been given permission to and passing it off as your own work and a school assignment is considered cheating? Most of the time, yes. So getting clear about the terminology, I think it's really important for us to have a conversation about how to prevent cheating with AI. And then I do think there's also a conversation around where and when do we need to cite AI and how do we do that most effectively. I think that producing writing and original content are still really valuable skills for students to be able to do. It will allow them to have that foundational understanding about what AI can and can't do and how to make it better. So I think strong writing skills are really still important. Even though I'm going to be using AI with my students, I still want them to be strong writers. So I want to make sure that what they're writing is their own. Something you'll see floating around online a lot are these AI plagiarism detectors. This one was actually put out by OpenAI, the same company that does ChatGPT, and it claimed that it could identify ChatGPT's work. It was posted and it was taken down less than a month later because they realized actually it could not identify ChatGPT's work with accuracy. So at the time of recording, we're in October 2023. I have not seen or heard of one of these that works with enough accuracy to be able to say, okay, I'm just going to let my students do their writing wherever, whenever, and run it through one of these. At the moment, I think the best plagiarism detector is you as the teacher. I've personally flipped all of my instruction so that my students do like flipped lessons. I record lessons and have them watch them at home, not too dissimilar to what you're doing now. And then when they're in the classroom, that's when they're doing the writing. So I can monitor it. I still have them do it on the computers. I don't think pen and paper is necessary, but I'm able to watch them in the classroom and monitor that their writing is their own. However, there have been some cases where students are absent and they need to redo stuff and make up work. My use of AI for their assignments has made it so it's really easy for me to identify when students are using AI. I put into the AI like the prompt I'm giving the students and some of the criteria. I see what it spits out for me. What it will give a student will be different, but I'm able to recognize like patterns and how AI writes and how AI approaches different topics. And so when a student turns in an AI generated assignment, I'm like, this looks so familiar to what AI did when I asked it to write this assignment. And then I typically just ask students to redo that piece of work. However, you might have a different policy on what happens when students use AI. And this is another resource I want to provide to you. Somebody in the district shared it with me. It is a like brain sourced document full of AI policies. So different schools and districts around, I want to say country, I don't know if it's international yet, are just sharing the policies that they're giving students, right? They're sharing the language, they're sharing the details. So this could be a great place to like get ideas or pull language for how you want to create your AI policy for your school or district. All right. Once your students kind of have a process in place for when and where they do their work and they understand the policy, then I want to explicitly teach them about digital citizenship. And I like to approach it through the exact same way ChatGPT does when you log on. These were the old warnings, but I like them. I think they're great. They say, hey, occasionally we give misinformation. Sometimes it's biased. And our AI trainers can look at what you're doing, so please don't share private information. Those are like the three main pillars of digital citizenship that we'll address: bias, misinformation, and privacy. Starting with bias, I think teaching bias through AI image generators is the most impactful because it's really easy to see the bias in a way that's not as apparent in writing. So I use Bing image generator. I like a lot. It's like the first time I've been like, yeah, Bing is my favorite something. Midjourney is good too. I like that. It's not as straightforward to use. And then DALL-E is probably the most straightforward to use. Actually, Bing is really easy too. And I think it's better. So I put this prompt into Bing, an image that displays people in the workforce, each person representing a different job, a pretty general prompt. And then when we're talking about bias, right, establish the definition and ask your students these questions. Who's being represented? How are they being represented? And who's being left out? So who's being represented here? Pretty much men. How are they being represented? They're mostly white. They're mostly able-bodied. They're mostly slender. They're mostly fit. They're of the same average height and build. They're mostly policemen and construction workers, right? And who's being left out? What genders, what races, what abilities, what body types, what types of work are being left out? So again, I think images are really powerful to start having those conversations. It's also important to understand how AI is trained and where bias comes from, right? AI is pulling all of our society's information, usually from the web. So our AI is going to be as biased as our society is. Understanding our bias in society will help us understand why and where the AI will show you bias, right? Our society is generally biased in certain ways towards or against certain types of people and certain groups. And so again, understanding that and where that's coming from will help you recognize the bias. And there's a video in the lesson that talks a little bit more about this. Next is privacy. Like the warning showed, all of these companies are collecting your data. They're collecting what you say and where you are, and maybe other information associated with the email account that you used to register. It's also possible that somebody in the company is reading what you're writing. So for students to understand that and then have a discussion about what data should definitely remain private, and it's, similar to the stuff we talk about generally in digital citizenship. And then how might our data be used? Why are these companies collecting this data? What purpose do they have for it? How could they use it? And talking about different scenarios of different AI devices and what types of data they might collect and how they might use those. And then finally, misinformation. This is one of my favorite examples of misinformation. This was circulating about a year ago when ChatGPT first splashed onto the scene. Somebody asked it to tell them about the first president of the United States, and it wrote a nice little paragraph about Hillary Clinton. Again, understanding how AI works will help your students understand why it would do something like this. AI is a predictive tool. It is built on algorithms that allow it to predict the next letter, the next word, the next sentence that make the most sense based on the context it's given. They're not pulling information from a single source. They've learned about a bunch of information, and they're trying to mimic a human brain, predicting based on contextual information. So the AI knew about Hillary Clinton, about her campaign, and it predicted that she was the president based on the information that it had. This should be a big aha moment to students about how and why it can produce misinformation. I do an activity in my unit plan where I ask ChatGPT to produce a list of facts, some of them accurate, some of them inaccurate, that need clarification, and then have the students go and fact check those live. This is the prompt I use because sometimes it can be hard to generate misinformation intentionally on ChatGPT because it tries really, really hard not to. Another great activity for students is have them check the sources that ChatGPT provides. Again, because it's a predictive tool, it's not just pulling information from a source and say, here's the source that I used. So it predicts what source might make sense. It says, here's, a source that typically provides this type of information, and this is what the website for that source might look like. It will oftentimes bring you to a real website, but not to a real page, because again, AI is making up that source. So that's another moment for students. It's not actually providing sources. And then the last thing with misinformation is understanding the larger global consequences of misinformation being generated by AI is because AI is being trained on the data we're putting on the web. If we're generating misinformation like that Hillary Clinton paragraph with AI and then posting it onto the web, AI is going to then take that misinformation back in and continue to generate more misinformation because that's becoming a part of its data set, a part of its contextual background. So the more misinformation is out there, the more misinformation it is going to produce. It's like a snake eating its tail. It's going to become a dangerous cycle. So making sure students understand those larger consequences and understanding that data sets aren't just like data sets. They're also social media comments, right? They are a part of the data sets that AI is using. All of this concludes in a code of ethics. All of these companies like OpenAI and Google and Microsoft and Adobe, who are generating AI tools, create codes of ethics for how they're going to ethically use AI. So the last lesson is walking your students through a process of developing their own code of ethics for your class or for your school. All of this is a part of my digital citizenship unit plan. It's 8 weeks. Nope, it's 8 lessons. That would be about 2 weeks straight through. Not including there's some like assessment type stuff at the end that you can tack on. For me, we would teach it like in an advisory, so that would be spread out over a longer period of time, doing this like once every couple weeks. So what next? Your students understand what AI is. They know how to use it responsibly. Now you start looking at, okay, what do you teach and where can AI help your students learn? Again, I teach language arts, so I have a little bit of bias towards language arts, but language arts is a skill that is cross-curricular, right? In pretty much all subjects, we read to learn and we write to understand. So this is one where you could probably take some of the skills and apply it cross-curricular. I want to show you a few things that I've been doing with my students and share some more resources. So the first thing is to help generate mentor texts. I do a lot of generating mentor texts like as a teacher and lesson planning, but this is all about with the students, how to use this with your students. And it's a great way for your students to understand a style of writing. If we think about like the Common Core, we want our students to write narratives, informatives, and argumentatives. So starting with, okay, what is included in that style of writing? If we were going to prompt AI to write in that style, what would we ask it to include? So that starts a conversation about, what is this style of writing that we're learning about? Then I ask my students to write a prompt in that style. The example you see up here is a magical realism narrative. So we're talking about what's included in a narrative, but also what's included in the genre of magical realism. And I teach my students how to specifically write a prompt. They put it in this Google Doc. I take all their prompts, plug them into ChatGPT, and then I paste for them into that same Google Doc what ChatGPT said. So it's now given them a story in this style. And I'm asking them to edit that story, evaluate it for language, voice, structure. Does it do what we asked it to do in this style, in this genre? Does it have any bias? Identify bias. Then transform the output and make it better, right? Use your human knowledge and your human ability to make what a robot did into something better. That's the first activity. Then we explore more mentor texts. So we read like Gabriel Garcia Marquez and other actual magical realism examples. So students have a really solid background on the style. And then they come and they write their own in class, right? We're workshopping it in class. I'm watching them do the writing. I know it is their authentic work. Once that's all done, I then ask the students to feed their stories back into ChatGPT and ask for feedback. So this is the prompt we provide. Please provide feedback on my story. You're going to act as a teacher to provide the feedback. I'll provide a rubric and the copy of the story, and I'd like you to provide the feedback and rewrite the story, telling me what changes you made. Again, this happens in a Google Doc. So the students, enter their information into the Google Doc, and I give it into ChatGPT. It spits out an output. At this point, you're like, why is this all happening through Google Docs? All of these companies currently have like an 18 or older policy. So I have to be the one actually doing the generation, but I just kind of give them the information back into a Google Doc. It takes a little bit of time, but it's pretty quick, if you have your systems down. So I then paste the output back, the feedback that the AI gave it, and the rewrite of their story that the AI did. This is the most important part. The student then analyzes what the AI did. I was so impressed by their analysis and what they learned. They were all really thinking critically about the AI. And I don't think I had any students who just blanketly was like, the AI did better. They all were able to say, hey, I think that it did this well and that it didn't do this quite as well as I did. So here are some student examples of the feedback. One more thing that I've done this year with my students is some more fact checking on informative writing. I have each student is representing a different country, and we're doing some background historical contextual information. To start their research process, I asked ChatGPT to just give me like the most important foundational historical moments for each country as an outline for the students to start their research. But because it's ChatGPT, I said, you need to be able to verify that this information is accurate from a credible source and then provide additional details for each event. The students did the verification in comments with the source on the side. And I asked them to also kind of critique anything that might be biased or inaccurate. So as you can see here, my student said, okay, this is verified, it's true from this credible source, but I think it might be slightly biased in the way they worded it. Another student said the same. He said, I was able to verify this on Britannica, but the AI's claim of the ending being tragic could be viewed as a biased statement. How cool is that? Because we've already talked about bias. This is one of the resources that I don't think is posted anywhere yet. So this is like exclusive to you. I have like a little free unit plan about how I tackle AI within a writing unit. It's just written out day by day. Student does this, I do this, student does this, to incorporate AI into writing units. This is all a part of a larger unit plan on introducing AI to the English language arts classroom, and that is for sale on my website. Last one is the visual arts. This is another one that feels kind of obvious to the subject area because AI can generate images. This is another image that AI generated for me on Bing. But it's also another one that is totally cross-curricular as well, right? We use images as learning tools in all subject areas. AI generated art is really great to teach different artistic styles. It gives pretty great images just if you give it a prompt, but they're all in this kind of like general digital art style, this kind of average digital art style, which are cool and impressive. But once you start asking it to produce in really specific ways, like I get chills every time I see what it produces because it is so cool. I spent some time over the summer creating a resource that started out just being for me because I felt like I needed it and wanted it, but I think it would be a great resource to use with students as well. It's just different artistic styles within the same prompt. It's another free one on my website. And when you access it, it looks like this. Every image is of a yellow dog in a hat, inspired by my dog Mabel. And it's supposed to be as like a cornerstone of being able to compare different styles. So they're all going to be yellow dogs, all in hats, and then you can compare the differences. So it's 100 pages long almost, and you can see all these different yellow dogs in a hat with the type of artistic style that it's in and a little description, AI generated description of what that style is. So again, you could use it with students to compare our artistic styles. You could ask them to take this image of abstract expressionism and this one of minimalism, and without the definitions, say, okay, can you define these styles based on these images alone? Or take a real abstract expressionism image compared to that image and say, what did the AI get correct about this style? What did it get wrong? This is also just a great resource for you as a teacher. If you're generating a lot of images to use in your lessons and you're like, I can't think of like how I want this image to look, you can scroll through and be like, oh my gosh, my whole lesson about photosynthesis, I'm trying to think of subjects, I'm going to generate in pixel art style, or I'm going to generate in manga style. So I like to have this just pinned to my browser, and I continually reference it when I'm generating images. With this is an important debate of the ethics of artist style. There are a lot of artists right now saying, hey, AI is being trained on my specific, unique style, and now people are able to produce those images for free. So that's an important conversation to have with your students. Should we be able to do that? If so, how do we give credit, or how are artists compensated for that? And then here's an example of like part of the lesson of comparing AI generated art in a particular style to the actual art as a part of that unit in introducing AI to the visual arts classroom. That's bringing us towards the end of this session. The next one I want to do is AI teacher time savers, because this is just a small part of how I'm using AI. This is what I'm doing with my students, but I'm also using it a ton for administrative tasks and lesson planning and grading, and just like making me a better and more efficient and effective teacher. So keep your eyes out for that. That will be next. And if you haven't already downloaded it and you want more, I have a free AI teacher's guide that's got, everything we've talked about, and then more, lots of like different EdTech tools and resources in there. My resources, if you're interested in any of the ones that I talked about tonight, are all on my website and my store. If you have a choice of where to purchase, I'd appreciate from my store, because, it's 100% profit would go to me. Whereas I also have a Teachers Pay Teachers, which, if that's easier for you, that is cool too. If you are an administrator and you're interested in purchasing multiple licenses for your school or district, just send me an email and I can tell you how to do that. Again, all of the resources should be available in the slide deck, in the comment section below, or in the email that you got this video from. If you have questions, you can send those to me through my website. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch. And a special thank you for those of you who came to the live recording. See you next time.